Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariah, and here on my channel I post university, travel, physio related content as I'm a physiotherapy student for a couple more months now. In this video I kind of did a video similar, but in that video I more recapped a webinar I watched, but in this video I kind of want to talk about like things I've looked out for when applying for jobs. As you've seen in the video that recently went up, I applied for a job, didn't get it, but you know, windows still open for other opportunities. So let's go. One of the main things I do when looking for a job is obviously look up the area you want to be in. Me, I knew that like I didn't want to stay in Birmingham, that's where I study. I knew I was coming back home down to the London area, which is where I'm from. For me, I didn't really care whether it's necessarily within London or within, let's say, about an hour and a half radius from either angle of London. Because I drive, I'm like, okay, I can commute, I'm open to commuting. So I think the furthest up I said I was willing to go was about Oxford, because I can do because I can do the train or I can drive. And then the furthest down I was willing to go was some parts of Sussex, but not all the way like down to Brighton and all that. No, thank you. Yeah, so that's one big thing to think about is, are you up for relocating? Because, you know, some opportunities are out there that you may need to relocate for if you really want them. But for me, my big point have been location, and then after that, rotations. So rotations are obviously a big thing. For me, I mean, it depends. If you want to do a static role, then you know that's easier for you to look around for jobs. But for me, I want to do a rotational role, and a big thing for me is what rotations are on offer, because there's lots of them in the area that are much closer to me than other ones I've been looking at. And I'm like, oh, I know this trust. You know, it's close, easy commute to work, But then I'm like, the rotations are meh. Or the rotations are your bog standard rotations that have been jazzed up. Not to be like rude, I just mean like in terms of your core rotations are your MSK, neuro and respiratory. Everything else is a bonus. But unless the hospital obviously specialises in that specific area, and that's the area you wish to go into. For me, I was like, I want a broad scope, kind of how like my student placements have given me a broad scope of placement. Like for students, so like for my student placements, I've done TNO, I've done OPAL, like AMU, I've done mental health and learning disabilities, I've done pediatric respiratory and orthopedics, I did urgent care, so AMU again, A&E, and I'm going to go on, fingers crossed, do respiratory, I believe it is. So I'm like, that's a good range. I want to continue getting a good range before I settle down into a static role. So for me, getting a wide range of rotations is very important. So there were quite a few jobs where I was like, oh, that's great, but no. Best based on the rotations. Again, about rotations, another thing that I really had a look out for when I've been looking around is how long are these rotations? Because from what I've noticed, every trust kind of varies. Some are 6-month rotations, some are 4-month rotations. For me, I lean more towards the 4-month rotations, just because I have a rough idea of how long I intend on being within that certain point in my life before I feel like I would know what I want to do as a static role. And if I do 4-month rotations, I get more exposure to things, and maybe my idea of what I think I'm going into may change. Versus if I do 6-month rotations, within that time frame, let's say I decided I'm staying only for a year and a half. I'm not staying for a year and a half, but let's say I started. In that case, I only see 3 rotations. Versus if I was doing the 4-month rotations, I see a lot more than 3. So yeah, that's something to consider when looking around for jobs. Another thing to consider, especially if you're applying before you are like either putting your application for HCPC or before you like months before you finish a degree, is to like email them. I mean, you don't have to, you could still put an application in, but from what I've noticed, some job authors will specifically say must have HCPC registration or in the progress of getting it. So then don't waste your time applying if they blatantly told you that you're here in, I don't know, let's say you're here in March and you don't graduate, finish your degree until August time, and they're telling you that. Don't waste your time. Okay, so, and don't waste their time as well. Yeah, okay. So what I've been doing in the jobs that don't specifically specify whether they're taking people who are graduating in the summer, I've emailed them and I'm like, hi, Osako, I'm interested in your band 5 rotational position. I'm graduating this summer. Would you be open to an application from someone like myself? And they'll tell me yes, they'll tell me no. I've had quite a few no's. I've had one yes. I've had, what else have I had? I've had not at this current point in time, but if you apply around this period, it's typically when the rotations switch over, so there will be an opening. And then boom, if that's a trust you really want to get into, you have an idea, okay, cool. And then in that case, one thing I would recommend, if you do get a response like that being like, not right now, but in this many months or in that period of time we typically offer, I would still keep a hold of their job description. Like save it somewhere on your laptop, your iPad, or whatever, wherever you want to save it. Save their job description, because I don't want to say guarantee, but like most likely the job description is going to come out looking similar, if not the exact same as what they just put out for that job. That gives you a head start on the experience that they're looking out for. That gives you a head start on drafting a personal statement. So I think that's a good thing to do, because there were some trusts that I was open to until I found out certain things in terms of like the durations of the rotations and just the time frame when they are allowing people who are graduating in the summer, that I was open to. When I saw their job description pop up, I was like, in case I get to the point in time where I haven't found something by that point in time, I may still be open to applying to them. So I printed off their job description, highlighted things that would be relevant to me, highlighted things, so then if it comes to that point and I have to write a personal statement, I'm like, boom, here's my notes, blah, 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 blah. Go from here. So it's just like keeping your head in the game. Another thing to look out for when applying for jobs, again, the trust obviously is big, important. You want to know what type of trust you're working for. You can, I think it's like CQC, if I remember. They like, I don't want to say they're like the Ofsted for hospitals, but they're like the Ofsted for hospitals. If you don't know what Ofsted is like they go around the schools, review the schools, say whether they're like excellent, good, outstanding, etc. But they kind of do that for hospitals and they rank them in certain departments. So certain trusts where I was like, oh, you look like a good trust based off the rotations you're offering and based off the reviews I found on like Google and Indeed and etc. on other places of people who have worked there. I hear it's like a good place to be. Let me see what the CQC is saying, because if the CQC is saying, I'm a bit like, so that's something to bear in mind as well when thinking about it. I'm trying to remember what other things I thought about when I started looking, because I was given a list of things to definitely look out for, but I would say those are the big ones. Obviously, you have to look through the job description, see if you can match up, etc. But I can do a whole video on me annotating a job description and us like going through it. I feel like that would be beneficial for some people, for me to like sit down, print out a job description and be like, ooh, this is what you look out for, this is what you post, this is what you don't look. But yeah, another top tip, again, not just emailing them to find out if they take people or not, but even if you are going to apply, sometimes it's good, from what I've heard, to email them. And whether it's like asking simple questions like, do you offer staff parking? That was one thing I was going to say. Look at your staff perks. Like, how many holidays will you be entitled to? Because some people, obviously, some of you may have families. You may want to know if there's a nursery on site. Do you have discounts to this? For specific things, everybody's situation is different. So you want to see that it actually tailors to your needs and it suits you to the best. Anyway, I will end up rambling if I don't come off here now. So that was like a quick whistle stop talk. I hate saying that. It gives me so many flashbacks. That was a quick little stop on what to look out for when applying for your first Band 5 rotational, in my case, role. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this kind of video, give it a thumbs up and check out the rest of my channel to see what else you may enjoy. Bye guys!